Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome along to another episode of Spill the Beans. My name is Duncan Goldie. My guests this week are two very inspiring young entrepreneurs, Sam Alsop-Hall and Liam Molesworth, who have founded a company called Mprove. It's a healthcare consultancy, so it's a system flow consultancy bringing together innovative technology providers and NHS decision makers to solve real world problems that affect the users of the healthcare system. So that can be anyone from obviously the clinicians all the way through to the patients and everyone kind of really in between. So they actually founded Mprove smack bang in the midst of a global pandemic, which is not necessarily advisable for the stress levels, but you know they've received really good traction and the business has taken off quite quickly actually, thanks to basically the working style that they've got and their kind of authentic approach, which essentially allows the NHS decision makers to work with experts across the system to deliver holistic and bespoke solutions, regardless of whether they are interim consultants, management consultants, technology providers, and basically everything in between. So it's a really insightful and interesting chat with these two, and I hope you enjoy it too. Cool. Liam, Sam, thank you so much for featuring on the podcast with me today. How's it going? Tell me, whereabouts in the world are you guys? Looks like you're one of the rare people in the office.
Yes, we pleasure to be on. We are in sunny Birmingham, as you can see behind us. A high-risk location for coronavirus, but we thought it would be essential to come into the office today.
We're in a bubble, aren't we? So
we're in a bubble.
We're bubbling.
Exactly. I do actually know a few of the guys that work in that office, and I've seen that you've got the temperature monitors, the gun, and everything like that as you come in. Is that must be a pretty weird way to come into the office?
We've got about 1 million of these as well. Although we're not sure if they've still got sanitizer in or just vodka. We're not really sure now.
Exactly.
Yeah, taking it very seriously. We've got a one-way system throughout the office. Everyone is spread out where possible, and yeah, hopefully we can get back to normality a little bit soon.
That's it. Fingers crossed. Well, I'm very jealous being over here in central London by myself, as I'm sure you know. So, well, look, thanks very much for setting aside the time and featuring with us. So obviously you guys have founded a healthcare consultancy called Mprove. And we'll go into that in just a little bit more detail in a second. But I suppose, you know, for those that might not be aware of your own personal backgrounds and stuff, can you each just talk me through, I suppose, what led you up to found Mprove and the kind of career path that you've been on?
Do that.
Yeah, so effectively left university where I went to uni in Liverpool. I did a politics degree with French. So the less said about that, the better, because I'm clearly not using my degree at all. Went off to work in recruitment in London, lived in Clapham for a while, recruited for investment banks looking for Cognos developers, which is great fun. Yeah, really, really interesting. Basically moved back up to the Midlands to get married. My girlfriend at the time gave me an ultimatum: you've got to move back, otherwise that's the end of us. So moved up to Birmingham, landed recruiting into the NHS. Turned out to be quite good at it, to be fair. Motored through a career at one big PLC, got headhunted to join another company called Harvey Nash and set their interim recruitment practice up from their Birmingham business. And yeah, that's where I met Liam. That's where we first started working together. Then deserted Liam to go work in management consulting, which was great fun, very long nights, stressful days, but really sort of helped my personal development. Did a little bit of software sales and then went into recruitment process outsourcing. And then just thought, I think I can do something different, blend all these skills together. Who's the man to do it with? And the answer was go back to Liam. So that's how we came back together.
Yeah, and then I guess from my side, a little bit different. I didn't go to uni. I pursued the dream of professional football. Lived in some interesting countries: Sweden, Finland, Australia, and then came back to England, broke my leg, and then, to be honest, I always dreamt of being a recruiter anyway. No. But yeah, I didn't even know what recruitment was on my first day. I joined a big PLC company, and I think they're very good at taking you through the ranks, getting you up to speed, and sort of just teaching you the basics of recruitment. But I think a lot of recruiters outgrow them very quickly and find themselves, I don't know, everyone's sort of forced in, I found everyone was sort of forced in the same direction and pigeonholed into doing the same things, where obviously everyone is, you know, different and better at certain things. So that's when I joined Harvey Nash with Sam. From Harvey Nash, Sam deserted me. I joined Woodrow Mercer and sort of restarted their healthcare brand. So they founded as a healthcare recruitment agency in 2011, 2012, and then sort of moved away from healthcare when different frameworks came in, agency caps came in, margins dropped, and it was just a lot harder to make money from recruitment in healthcare. So yeah, I've been here now for 2 years and we're doing pretty well. And then I think it was always a goal of Sam's and I's to get the band back together and start our own business. And luckily, we spoke to Dan and Heggie, who are obviously also involved in Woodrow Mercer, and we thought Woodrow Mercer and Mprove would go hand in hand. So in the middle of a pandemic, we decided to start Mprove.
Fantastic. I mean, that must have been, I mean, obviously you might have had plans and everything like that to found Mprove prior to the pandemic. Was there any kind of doubts in your mind about whether the timing was right or not?
Yeah, I think so.
Fairly loaded question, but
yeah, my wife was going to kill me, Duncan. So let me get this straight. You've incorporated a company on the 6th of March, and you're going to start something brand new in the middle of a pandemic. And I said, yeah, and then proceeded to spend the next 3.5 months just glued to Microsoft Teams and Zoom in our spare bedroom upstairs, just not coming outside for anything other than a drink, really.
I know the feeling.
Yeah,
I think
great fun.
I think in a really weird way, it couldn't have been a better time to start a new business, and the reason being, I think there were so many of our potential customers and clients who were forced to just stop and take a bit of a breather, which meant, you know, they were more accessible. So the amount of people that we, you know, I guess when we're sort of planning the business, right, these are our potential customers. The amount of potential customers that we just got on the phone straight away because they had a lot more time on their hands and they were more accessible meant that we could really fast forward the growth of our company in terms of, you know, profit, but getting those conversations and clients rolling. So I think we're probably maybe 3 or 4 months ahead of where we are at the moment, and that's due to just having the time at the start of the pandemic. So yeah, I think it was turned to positive rather than negative.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. And I know there's a lot of, you know, businesses that have been born out of recessions and things like that in the past that have, you know, been able to innovate, I suppose. And that's a sort of key feature, I think, of you guys, and being able to adapt to the different scenarios. So I guess to go back, I mean, around Mprove, and you guys were kind of talking about the initial stages and, you know, how you're going to set it up. You've obviously got quite a broad set of experience and business acumen. Talk me through kind of, you know, Mprove's main service offerings, and I suppose kind of how each of you manage each individual part.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the idea basically, which is the unique selling point of Mprove, is that management consultancies, traditional management consultancies, traditional recruitment agencies, and traditional technology companies, they can only ever solve part of the problem. So when there's a situation in the NHS or in private healthcare where something needs redesigning or reconfiguring, if you just use, you know, interims, or you just use management consulting, or you just use tech in isolation, it's not going to work. So the whole premise of Mprove is to basically bring together solutions which encompass all the best elements of those 3 industries in one place. So that's kind of where it came from, in terms of, we don't go into a project where we haven't got consultancy methodology deployed and assurance deployed. We haven't got specialist interims in, and we don't have, on top of that, a specialist technology provider that can underpin the change that we deliver. So that's effectively, it's not reinventing the wheel, it's just bringing together the best bits of 3 different industries into one holistic improvement journey for clients, really. And then on top of that, the other thing that we've realized was kind of over the years, Liam and I kind of realised that we've got a bit of a skill for sales, for business development, for marketing, for generating interest in innovation, in products, in people, because otherwise that we wouldn't have managed to get to the point we've managed to get to in our career so far. So we want to be able to harness that and help to give market access to the best technological innovations in the market. So we've partnered with, at the moment, we've partnered with 5 of the National Innovation Accelerator technology companies, the ones that have been evidenced and approved by NHS England, NHS Improvement, and the academic health science networks. And we're partnered with them to try and help them to get in front of the right people in the NHS to showcase their interventions that work, that are evidenced, that have been verified, that are, you know, ready to use. And they might be scary things like, you know, AI and machine learning based technology, or they might be virtual reality headsets, or they might be, you know, complex algorithm based technology interfaces. But actually that's where the health service needs to go to. So by using our unique position, we can almost sort of broker the right conversations for the right people to come together. So it's all about partnership working and bringing the best tech to the places that need it. And what we found was technology companies who traditionally can't get into the right room quick enough to be able to sort of scale and invest and continue their journey forward. So that's another part of the business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so again, it's quite a broad service offering that Mprove have got. And is it mainly based around the relationships that you guys have and being able to activate those? And I guess, how are you seeing those relationships and the sort of stakeholders that you're used to dealing with change throughout the short time that you've been going? And I suppose their appetite for innovation.
Yeah. I mean, going back to it again, Liam's point around the pandemic being in some ways the best timing ever is, you know, all of a sudden NHS England launched a framework for digital consultations for GPs for primary care. And all of a sudden, you know, video technology in primary care has just skyrocketed. Well, that wouldn't have happened without the pandemic. But there's other things like remote patient monitoring, trying to find, you know, you probably saw in the press a lot of the kind of mistakes that were made, unfortunately, when the government was trying to identify people that should shield. So we work with a company, for example, called Health Navigator, who can use a complex algorithm to find and identify people who are vulnerable, who have certain conditions or certain kind of comorbidities that mean that they need to be looked after and have proactive healthcare given to them. So, you know, it's really great for us to be able to work as a startup where we're working, yes, as a startup but with groundbreaking technology that actually has helped during the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I suppose being able to leverage those relationships and activate those relationships on behalf of those businesses is going to be extremely valuable for them as well. How are you able to qualify those businesses? Because I'm sure that almost every, you know, health tech startup, of which there are a lot more now than there was 12 months ago, how are you able to qualify those as the ones that you're able to activate those pre-existing relationships on behalf of?
Yeah, so initially we kind of played it really safe, and we've only really supported organisations that are on the National Innovation Accelerator, because they've done the random control trial. You know, for example, Health Navigator, again, they did a 5-year study up in York, which was validated by the Nuffield Trust. So, you know, when we're talking about their technology, we know there's an academic evidence base that says that this works. Same with patient experience platform PEP that we work with. We know that their intervention works. They've got the quantifiable evidence to demonstrate that what they do makes a difference. So realistically, we've kind of let other people do that verification and that kind of picking for us for now. But then moving forwards, what we'd like to do is hear real case studies from people in the NHS of tech that they've used that's made a difference to their working life, and then use the case studies to help these companies access further clients. I mean, to give you an example, this year Mprove is sponsoring, and indeed we are judging, the Health Service Journal award for digitising patient services. So that sort of demonstrates our commitment to identifying the best in breed technology solutions and digital solutions, because we want to understand, you know, in your local hospital, what digital solutions are they using, what's actually making a difference for patients, and what's actually, you know, delivering the cost benefit that they said it would do, or improving the outcome for the patient like they said it would do. So we want the evidence. You know, it's all about inspect what you expect, and all of those sort of mottos that you hear in business all the time. We want to make sure that the companies that we represent and that we try and support to access the market have shown their worth first, you know, proven their mettle first.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So talk to me about the, you know, the sort of more longer term plan then for Mprove. Obviously, you know, it's a fairly young company, but you seem to have, you know, come on in leaps and bounds just in the past 6 months. What stream is kind of like the main focus, or are you sort of simultaneously building up all of the streams?
Yeah, I think the pandemic has really helped us, I guess, focus on a couple of key areas. So one area that, you know, we've just been forced to turn a lot of attention to is our personalised care sector. So a lot of the work with the CCGs and the CSUs. What happened on March the 19th was NHS England came out and said that continuing healthcare assessments were no longer you know, an essential service, and they were going to sort of redeploy all of the nurse assessors to go and help tackle COVID on the front lines. Now, what that did for CCGs was create this backlog of assessments, and I think there were somewhere between 40,000 and 50,000 nationally between March the 19th and the 31st of August, and it meant that CCGs had to rapidly respond by the 1st of September and form, you know, teams of nurse assessors. Now, an area that we obviously help with is CCGs can outsource their whole backlog to Mprove. You know, we've got a bench of you know, very, very good nurse assessors, all the way through to sort of clinical managers and project managers and project directors. So we've found over the past sort of 3 months, I'd say probably 50% of our work has been in the personalised care sector. Yeah, and it's just because of the demand that COVID's brought.
Yeah, and I think, again, like going back to why it's important, I think that, it's 40,000 CHC assessments that need doing, but that's 40,000 people who, you know, got discharged from hospital during the pandemic, you know, as quickly as they came in, they were out again, which is fantastic. And the NHS did a good job of placing them temporarily into care homes or back at home with certain equipment, etc. But these people's families have had to sort of rally around them for 6 months and try and look after them with care that's not necessarily tailored for that person correctly, whether that's from a funding perspective or the right type of nursing, or, you know, the right number of visits per day, etc. So yeah, when you're looking at those backlogs, it's really important work, because, you know, we're supporting one group of clinical commissioning groups where they've got over 5,000 people waiting to be assessed for the right type of care. And that's since March, and we're in, you know, it's October tomorrow or the next day. So it's really concerning if we don't like get on top of that and get that right and get that backlog sorted, then it's people that are going to suffer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's very important work that you're providing. I suppose, you know, we're almost out of time, but to talk me through any advice that you might give to kind of, you know, you're obviously both very young, both, you know, got that entrepreneurial spirit, and you're I suppose, you know, you've evidence behind you in terms of Mprove as to how to kind of scale a company quite quickly, innovate, provide solutions, that meaningful solutions within the healthcare sector. What kind of advice would you give to people that are kind of looking down a similar path, and how they could kind of replicate the same successes that you've had over a short period of time?
I'd say that the thing that's worked for me, I can't speak for anyone else, is doing it with someone. I'm going to, you know, inflate his ego a little bit now, but doing it with someone that you trust and you really believe in. I think, you know, Sam and I have known each other for years now, and I don't think we've ever had a single, you know, full-blown argument, which is weird in business. But, you know, if I make a decision, you know, we'll talk it through, and Sam will trust me, and vice versa. So I think what's worked for me personally is having Sam there, you know, as my co-business partner to move a business forward, and we both trust each other. So that's, I think, if you're looking to do it with someone else, make sure that that person believes in the same things that you do, shares the same values and morals, shares the same, I guess, vision of where you want to take a business, and more importantly, trust each other.
Yeah, and then on that same point, I think listening. So the only reason that we know that there's a demand for what Mprove does is because we've listened, and we know that CHC backlogs are a problem, or we know that being able to see your urgent care pathway properly is a problem, or we know there's loads of people waiting for elective care operations in cancer, so how do we solve that problem? So it's just listening to what people's problems are and then going for it, I think, is the main thing. I mean, it was scary. Couldn't have got the timing any worse, middle of a pandemic. You've just got to go for it and just back yourself. If you've got the skills and you've got someone that you trust to work with and you've got the energy and the work ethic, then just have a go.
I think the amount of time you spend actually planning a business rather than building a business, they're two completely different things. The amount of conversations that I have with friends or players at football who are thinking of, right, I've been thinking about doing this and doing this and doing this. Well, it's brilliant you're thinking about it, but there's someone else who's doing it and actually building it and working on it already. So yeah, I'd say another big point is, I guess, stop planning so much and just go and start it would be the best stepping stone to starting a business.
Fantastic. Well, look, guys, I really appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, there's lots of things that you're involved with, and lots for people to kind of, continue researching and find out a little bit more about Mprove. What would be the best way for them to kind of stay in touch and keep an eye on the progress? Yeah,
much to Liam's frustration, annoyance, I absolutely love LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn. If you want to know what we're up to, what projects we're working on, sometimes even what I had for breakfast, then you need to be following us on LinkedIn. So just search us on there.
Mprove, yeah, on social media, so Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and yeah, I'm sure you'll find Sam's personal pages on there if you want to follow his.
Definitely. It's hard not to, yeah. Perfect. Well, look, we'll put all the links for those things in the summary of this podcast as well. But for now, thank you guys both so much for setting aside the time. And I'll let you crack on with the important work that you're doing.
Thanks a lot, Duncan. Appreciate it.
Duncan.
Cheers. So that's it for this week then, guys. Thanks very much to Sam and Liam for taking the time to obviously talk us through. I suppose it's such a broad service offering that Mprove have got, but it really demonstrates the kind of importance of service providers like Mprove within the healthcare sector, to be able to be that bridge between the innovative technologies within the healthcare sector or healthcare technology sector, and the NHS and the clinicians that they might not otherwise have access to each other, but also to alleviate the backlog and the strain that's put on the NHS as a result of things like COVID. But backlogs and waiting times have been around for a long time, so it's really important that they're able to sort of offer those services to a variety of different areas, and so it's super interesting. So like we said at the end of the podcast, if you do want to find out more, we've put some links to their social channels in the summary of this podcast, so I do encourage you to check it out and give them a follow. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week, so stay safe and I'll see you then.